Well, VP Kamala Harris finding what they think, what her handlers anyway think, is a winning issue, making the charge that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is forcing Floridian kids to learn that slavery was actually a good thing for Black Americans. Here she is making those spectacular charges. Listen.
In the state of Florida, they decided middle school students will be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They want to replace history with lies. High schoolers may be taught that victims of violence, of massacres, were also perpetrators. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not have it. And we will not have it. Instead, they dare to push propaganda to our children. This is the United States of America. We're not supposed to do that.
Now, the problem is that it's simply not true, what she's been saying. As Charlie Cook pointed out in a National Review piece, which went through this detail by detail about the Florida curriculum on slavery, that curriculum says no such thing. He's presented, Charlie Cook has a very long list of every single reference to slavery in the course about which VP Harris is complaining, so you can actually see for yourself the Black Americans who created the curriculum that she's so upset about would have never attempted to make the racist claims that she claims they do. For more on all this, let's bring in Parents Defending Education President and founder Nicole Neily. Nicole, good to see you. Thank you for being here. You know, the only disparaging claims that can be made about our public school system, I think, that are fair is that we're spending a lot more and getting a lot less out of public education. But with regard to this specific charge, what do you make of what VP Kamala Harris is saying? Because it's just not true.
I mean, it's a little bit laughable that she's saying propaganda and gaslighting when that is exactly what she is doing. And she's using her bully pulpit to spread falsehoods. As Charles Cook has documented, that is absolutely not what Florida says. But, you know, let's make this White House obviously is not going to let facts get in the way of a good narrative. To them, this is sensationalistic, but it's also completely false. Florida's history is complete, it is thorough, it has hundreds of references to slavery, it puts it into proper context, and this White House is yet again trying to come up with a solution in search of a problem.
And by the way, I printed it all out. It's 14 pages of specific details. He went through every reference in the curriculum to slavery and slaves. 14 pages of references, none of which say what she claimed it was, that this was excusing slavery in any way, shape, or form. Well, meanwhile, she happens to be one of the biggest supporters of the public school system and the way it's being run of anybody there is in government right now. We are spending a fortune getting an education that is far behind world standards, or at least industrial world standards. So what do we do about it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, even before the pandemic, our children were not reading, writing, able to do math at grade level, certainly because of school closures led by the CDC and teachers unions. Children's achievement has fallen off a cliff. We are spending, as you pointed out, far more money, getting far worse outcomes than most other developed nations. China, India, Europe, they are laughing at us right now. While our schools are mired in identity fights and equity battles, our children are not learning. That is not how our students will grow up and be able to compete in a global economy. That is how we will be working for others in the future.
And I know it's not just about money, but in New York City, it now costs $38,000 per kid to educate a kid in public schools. Just to give a counter example, a parochial school in New York City that I sent my daughter to for 4 years costs $9,000 a year. They get test scores that are far better than public school test scores. Close to 100% of the graduates go on to college, and there's no criminal behavior in these schools, as there is in a lot of public schools. So you're getting a far better education in a school, a parochial school, that costs 1/4 what public schools cost. I mean, isn't the answer simply vouchers so people can afford to send their kids to other schools that they think might be better than the public school alternative?
Well, certainly, I mean, the pandemic has sped up that departure, but since 2019, 14% of students in the New York City public school system have fled because families are not receiving quality. They're receiving propaganda. Their children are, they're getting all these identity politics lessons rather than being taught basic core skills that we send them to school to learn. They're not being kept safe. And so is it little wonder that families feel that they've been betrayed? And let's remember, schools got billions of dollars dumped into them as a result of COVID and ESSER spending, and we're about to watch all of that money dry up. And so schools are about to come to us, hat in hand, saying we need more money. It's unacceptable.
And by the way, the other big difference with parochial schools from public schools is they're non-union, and that's the only reason the public schools are defended so heartedly by people like Vice President Kamala Harris, because they are union organizations, and politicians want to kill school choice precisely because a lot of these schools that kids would go to would be non-union schools. So it's all political, and it's a big mess, and we thank you for doing something about it. We appreciate you being here, Nicole.